explain to me, maybe Mark should answer this one, okay? So the first four people, you guys work for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Correct.
And you have two people that work for Fuse and two people that work for Cosa. How does that all work? Like, how do you guys interact and who does what?
Well, one is, it's one big friendly family. We all work together for the greater good of making the show what it is and what it is. Hopefully all of you enjoy it. But basically it goes like this. I got hired on the pilot. Now, a quick little story about the pilot. I almost walked away from it. I walked away from it because I didn't think I had a shot to get it. And because Joss at the time worked for this one visual effects company. And when my agent said, hey, did you see that S.H.I.E.L.D.? Which seemed like it would be good for you. I said, it'd be great for me, but forget it. Isn't worth going after because he does all his television with this one visual effects company. So she said, well, you don't know that. And I said, I know that. And she says, you don't know that. And I said, fine. I said, she said, I'm going to call Jeff Loeb because he likes you and you worked with him on Heroes and I'm going to talk to him. So he goes back, you got a meeting. And I was like, are you kidding me? So at that point, the process began. So I went in, I got hired, and it was thrilling and a surprise because they broke the way they normally do things. And I thought that was great. But the idea here is how the show was set up, is that I like to make sure that every house succeeds creatively, financially. I need to make sure, along with Sabrina, that we protect the show, we protect the facilities, and in doing so, we work our creative to the strengths of everyone's abilities. Because everybody does things differently, better, more aesthetically in line to what I'm looking for. So therefore, we basically, I had experience with Fuse and Cosa prior to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I sort of found them when I was doing No Ordinary Family. And they were both very tiny companies at the time. I'm very proud of them because they have grown to basically titans in television visual effects, I have to say. I mean, it's amazing what being great, honest, talented companies shooting straight will do. And it's a simple model, but they do it brilliantly. And so therefore, we play all the shots. We cast, just like a casting director or producers are, they write a role, they gotta fill it with an actor. So, we look at it the same way. Okay, so we have this look, we have this effect that has to be created. How do we want to go about this? Where's it going to be best fit? It's always best fit creatively first. That's how I always think. Money we'll deal with. Sabrina always makes it work. So we'll figure that out afterwards. But it's really about where can I do this, and also how much can we mitigate risk? Because Fuse does all of Ghost Rider. They do the Zephyr. They do the Quinjets. They do the HQ hangar. It's a lot of work, right? So then also now we have Cosa. Cosa does all the brilliant holograms that you see with Fitzsimmons and all that kind of. So that's along with they did James's chain last season, the Hellfire chain, and I think they did some other cool. Well, they did the Black Eyes this year, and they did. Yeah, they've been doing some really. Oh, and one of my favorite sequences that we did last season was 315. It was directed by Kevin Tancherone, and it was the rooftop sequence. And that was all done on a soundstage with a blue screen. Well, actually, it was a green screen, but but in the end, you could not tell that was not a real rooftop. And all the embers, all the fire, all created.
All by Cosa.
All by Cosa. So yeah. So the whole thing is that what's really important is what all of the fans who love the Marvel movies and is that we try to uphold the quality of the cinematic universe into a television form. And in doing so, it's a lot of work because the quality in the bar is set very high. And so we have a similar bar set very high that we always try to meet and hopefully exceed. So anyway, so in doing so, we work all together. So that's sort of the lay of the land of how we sort of, prep the shots from our side, because myself, Sabrina, and Briana, and Ryan, we're employed by ABC Television. And And so we work on the show side. And so we get the scripts, we break them down, we organize all the shots, and then we set them all out for actually bidding, and it goes, you know, the ones that we designated for Fuse go to Fuse, and the ones that are designated for Cosa go to Cosa, and then we have Pixelmondo, another house, and then we get that stuff back, and we just go into production after we get approvals on the budgets, and we have a lot of trust from the producers, from Jed and Marissa, and Jeff Bell, and Jeff Loeb. I mean, you know, so we have a lot of room to you know, make things slightly different, slightly better if we think so, that sort of thing. That's pretty much the lay of the land, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
I talk a lot.
That's okay.
Can I just jump in? Mark and Sabrina have to do this amazing balancing act, and I'm not just kissing up when I say they handle it so much better than so many of our clients. They really do a great job.
Thank you.
So along that line, what is the time frame for a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that's so visual effects heavy? Like from the time a script is written or finalized to the point where they're shooting an episode and you guys have to add in your visual effects, and you know, you don't just show up and wave a wand. You have to be involved in the planning of the shots, and where are we going to shoot them? How are we going to shoot them? You guys know the best way to shoot something so that it can be edited for visual effects. Because it seems like I hear an awful lot of, oh boy, we just finished the episode like days or a week before it airs on TV. How tight of a time schedule are you guys on?
We just finished the episode that airs Tuesday on Friday morning.
Wow.
We have about a week when we get the studio draft for Mark and I to break it down and to send it out to the vendors for them to bid it, get it back to us, have all the meetings, get approvals on budget before we start shooting. Then it's about 8 days, maybe 9 days, depending on the show, for shooting it. And then it goes into the editorial process, and that lasts about a week and a half. You get your editor's cut, your director's cut, your producer's cut, and usually between the director's cut and the producer's cut is, in between all that, Kolpack usually gets called in to the editor's base, and he helps put together the visual effects, explains what he shot, how it should go, helps them kind of connect with what the visual effects should be. And then I come in, and I, with our team here, Ryan and Briana, we come in and we number the shots, and we push them out to the vendors, get it rebid, and start production of visual effects on the show. And we get, if we're lucky, we get 12 days to do a show. If it's a really big sequence, sometimes I'm able to pull it early if I'm lucky, but a lot of times it's about 12 days to do a show.
What's about standard for like a broadcast show? And when I say broadcast, you know, you're talking about, you know, CBS, ABC, NBC, you know, Fox, that kind of stuff. Not premium cable, which would be, you know, the HBO and the Showtimes. And
They get a bit more time than we do.
yeah, a lot more.
Okay, so as I was prepping for this panel and trying to go up with some questions, I just happened to be watching an interview with a guy on the internet last week, and he is, I forget who he was, but he's currently a professional makeup artist working in movies like special effects type, you know, prosthetics and that kind of stuff. And in the interview, he mentioned that when he was a little boy, like 5 years old, he got into his mom's makeup cabinet and he put makeup all over himself. And he said from that point on, he knew that he wanted to do some kind of, you know, makeup artistry for the rest of his life. Did any of you have any kind of a moment where something happened, or you were watching a movie and you were like, wow, this is amazing, I want to do that for the rest of my life?
I mean,
Star Wars, man.
Star Wars.
Of course. Star Wars and Aliens for me. Aliens been a huge...
Aliens?
Alien, the first one. And then, of course, Aliens, but the first one, the creature design and everything. But the first time you saw the Star Destroyer over the camera, chasing the blockade runner, yeah.
I think
Hard
any
to
visual
top.
effects artist or one of us admin people, producers, we all have that story. We all have that moment where, oh my goodness, I have to work in television or I have to work in film. I think we all can shake our heads and say that's something we have, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was The Abyss.
Yeah, mine started at 10, and I was also into makeup. My thing was all about the classic Universal monsters, the mummy, the werewolf, all that kind of stuff, Frankenstein's monster. So I was, by the time I was 13, I was already taking alternate impressions of my friends and doing foam latex appliance pieces and getting all my, my mom would drive me to Glendale, the Don Post studios, you know, where they made all the masks, and I would buy my 5 gallons of latex, which sounds very odd when you're 13 years old, you know, but yeah, and then the same thing as like with Kevin was Star Wars. It was funny because my dad, who was a physician, had a transcriber, and she was in this whole screening group back in the 70s. So I was 16 in '77, and so she knew I loved science fiction and that kind of stuff, and Star Trek, and she says, hey, there's this movie, I don't want to go to it. You want to go to it? And I said, what's it called? She says, Star Wars. And I said, Star Wars? What is the stars that have battles? What is Star Wars? She goes, I don't know, it's a science fiction movie. I think you'll like it. And I said, okay, I'll go. You know, and then I sat at the Academy Theater on Sunset and watched the ship come over, and literally I felt my brain rewired. I mean, it was something I'd never seen before, because you gotta realize I was dealing with Star Trek, and it was really clunky moves, and I was dealing with Buck Rogers with sparklers out the back of ships and stuff, and I saw something that looked so real. And so then, of course, when I worked on Batman Forever, and I went in to interview with John Dykstra, you know, the first thing I had to say to him was like, you know, first of all, just because of your work, because the fact that he invented motion control. He invented the Cooper control system, you know, the programming that operates, you know, motion control rigs, was just mind-blowing to me. And so it was a huge honor to get to work with him for the short time that I worked on the project. But yeah, anyone else?
I think, for me, it was probably, I was a little bit too young for the original Star Wars, but by the time like the Indiana Jones movies were coming out and we were getting into Return of the Jedi, where you had to wait in line, you had to go to the theater and you had to be there for 6 or 7 hours, and you would just hang out and, you know, people would have their stuff. So I think that's probably what did it for me. I originally thought that I was going to be doing animatronics or something. So I tried to get a degree in engineering, and it turned out I'm terrible at that kind of math. But then a movie like Jurassic Park comes out and you go, oh, it's all going to be computers probably. But I feel really lucky in that, well, whereas lots of people, they've had multiple careers and they've sort of ended up here, all I ever wanted to do growing up was to do visual effects. And in college, that's when I got my internship, and that's what I've been doing the whole time. I think Kevin's the same way, where we were able to do it, and I didn't stumble across it and stumble into it. I got to do the thing that I've always wanted to do the whole time.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for me, Star Wars as well, although I had the Star Wars sketchbooks, which I actually had at work the other day, and was showing Mark my original sketchbooks of the concept art for Star Wars, and as a kid I was always copying them and designing my own spaceships. But it wasn't until I was like 18, and ILM, you guys know ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, which is Lucas's effects company that he came out of Star Wars, they released a giant, thick, like coffee table book of effects. And I read that cover to cover, and at that point I was like, I should probably go into this in school, because I seem a little obsessed with it. And
I remember going to Crown Books, when that was a place.
Yeah.
And you would, I couldn't afford to buy the giant copy of the book, so you would just go to Crown Books and you would take their one preview copy and you would sit there and you would page through it.
it's amazing if you haven't seen it. It's got fold-outs of all the matte paintings that are like this big, from like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars and stuff. It's amazing. And I found out that a lot of the guys who started at ILM and started on Star Wars went to Cal State Long Beach, and so I ended up going there into industrial design for about a year before realizing that was not going to work, and wound up in film school there, and through circuitous routes, eventually wound up where I originally intended in visual effects.
Fantastic. So we have some clips to show. Mark, what do you got for us here?
All right, so we have a few things. Three things specifically. We have some material from Cosa, and Kevin, who's the visual effects supervisor on Preacher, brought some stuff, and then we cut a little reel here of stuff from season 4 here. Working with all the actors, but I want to invite up our special guest. Oh my God.
Might have been me one.
So why don't we welcome our lovely ghost show, Gabriel Luna. So we're going to talk.
Awesome.
That's fun. So basically, it starts like this. Gabriel won the role because he's a brilliant actor. And he plays Robbie so well. So he and I, like I did with all the actors, get together. And the interesting thing is the process to which the visual effects supervisor and the actor have to work together to basically make the performance come together. And, you know, the actor, you know, Gabe always has his ideas, and I have my ideas, and then we blend them together and try to figure out how we can elevate and make it work. But one of the challenges that we had with this particular character was, unlike Hyde last season, you know, who has a face and skin and muscle, and you can emote. How do he and I work together to come up with a way that will make this character relate to you? Because that's the most important thing. If a character doesn't relate to you, then it's a failure on all of our parts. So he doesn't have skin, he doesn't have muscle, he doesn't have tendons, he doesn't have anything to draw. So in the design process, which was from Felipe Smith's comic book, yeah, fantastic, was something we want to do different than Johnny Blaze. And that was, Johnny Blaze was depicted kind of with a very empty face. It didn't emote. So we put in the coal eyes, the eye orbit squash and stretch, so they emote. And then he also has ports right out here for when he kills. They work like exhaust ports. But when he and I started working together, it was like, you can jump in any time. Don't let me hog it.
No, so we're doing, I think it's the second episode where I say Fitz. I'm like walking on, and he comes up to me, and he's like, Gabe, I think, I don't know, I just had this idea about the way the rider moves, and it's just, you gotta, it's like monstrous, and when Kolpack gets into it, he just like hunches his back, and he's starting to do all the noises and all the shapes, and it's just, sometimes I'll just ask him, I was like, I'm sorry, how do you do that again, Mark? Just so the others around me can see what he's doing. But no, and then being, you know, wanting the character to originate from inside you, I mean, I'm always open to suggestions, but at the same time, you want to be the origin of these great ideas. And, but when Mark comes in, he's like, hey, but something's about the walk. And I was like, you're right, I'll work on it. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I think is right, and then it's going to be fine. Yeah. I see the episode, and I was like, God, he was right. He's why would I ever question Mark? And then, because then I look at it, the scene where the big bobblehead, that's the scene. And that's where he wanted me to do the walk, you know. And from that moment on, I never, ever doubted him again. Because when I look at it, I was like, yeah, he just looks like a regular dude, just like walking through the room. Yeah. With a big flaming skull. Yeah, but yeah, no, ever since then, it's just been about articulation in the neck, and trying to roll the, you know, tilting the skull, and Sabrina and all the guys at Fuse, and John and Kevin and everybody, they've done a really good job with having there be a reason why the skull is shaped that way, and why there's the cracks and the fissures in the skull. And I always liken it to when we're babies and we're newborns and our skulls are sliding into place for all the pieces to fit. Those are the cracks that offer us the place where these just like, you know, this fire can just spill out. And just, you know, it's really, really incredible. Especially when he talks about the exhaust ports, and it's just this white hot fire coming out of the side, just like blasting. Yeah. It's a cool character, man. You guys did a really good job.
You know what? It's just look at all what we work in is a collaborative art form, and it's all about just bouncing ideas and trying to make logic out of things that really seem illogical, and so, you know, dealing with it, and it's just like anything. You know, we always struggle a little bit with the Zephyr. You know, what are the best angles? You know, Kevin and I often, you know, and sitting there and John Decker, we're like, well, you know, there's only a few angles that look nice, and then the rest that looks kind of not as nice. But when you're dealing with a character like Ghost
from the back, doesn't look good.
Yeah. You know, so we're always trying to put a science, a reason, a genesis to everything. Where do things come from? You know, this way, you know, when I can act, and you know, when I'm talking to an actor and we're discussing it, I want them to be able to absorb what the visual effects are going to be, because what you never ever want to have is what I call the railroad track, where you have the performer on one rail and the visual effects on the other rail, and the two never meet. Then you get what I call a stillborn visual effect. So it's very important to me, and obviously to the actors, because they're very, very, you know, dedicated and professional to their craft, is to get an understanding, to get a working relationship, a vernacular, if you will, of trying to discover how we can made their performance come through the actual visual effect. Because when it does do that, then you have the magic, then you have the believability, and everyone doesn't question it, they just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great suggestions you made over the period we worked together. You just saw the prison scene, and you know, I was kind of factoring in some of the stuff you were telling about, and then it talks about Felipe Smith about Ghost Rider, and the all and Robbie Reyes, and him just being an animal, you know, and you know, I mean, you want to make it a monster movie sometimes, but then you have to realize that every given moment that you're the most powerful. So you know, so as I was coming out of that thing, I was doing this big turn where I turned to all those prisoners and just kind of give them this big thing and walk down and trying to take the note from earlier about make this body, make it bigger. And he's like, Gabe, I think you just like slightly turn over your shoulder, just a little bit over the left. I was like, sure, is that enough? He's like, yeah, it's gonna be good. And sure enough, man, you walk out and you look at these guys, you just look at these dudes, these guys are just bouncing, they're just like scurrying. All you have to do is just a little look, you know? And I'm thankful I have him, because he's there with us every day. If there's a V on the slate, meaning there's a visual effect that needs to happen on that shot, this guy's there, like always, never. He loves being there. And it's just, huge resource for us, and I'm thankful I have him every day that he's there. So thanks, dude. Thank you.
So I remember when the flaming chain showed up on the trolley at San Diego Comic-Con. When I saw it, I didn't think Ghost Rider. Because my thought was, holy crap, Ghost Rider would be so much work for the visual effects guys. I mean, you know, maybe he'd show up once or twice, but that's got to be a lot of work. So I didn't think it was Ghost Rider. And then when you had the Hell Charger there and they announced that it was Ghost Rider, I was very excited. And then my next thought was, well, he's going to be in a couple episodes or something. But it's been none of that. He was in the opening scene of the first episode. He's been in every episode. He's been phenomenal. Everybody loves Gabe's portrayal as Robbie. Everybody loves the visual effects. I haven't heard one complaint of, oh, it's not a motorcycle, or oh, it's the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. Everybody loves what you guys have done so far. So my question to you guys is, when you first found out that you were going to be working on Ghost Rider, is Ghost Rider like a dream character, a nightmare character, some of both? Like, I would think you guys would love a challenge, and Ghost Rider has to be a challenging character.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking for me, I have a comic book background in terms of comic art, rather, because I went to a graphic art school in New Jersey, done by the very famous artist Joe Kubert. And yeah, exactly. Rest in peace. So I thought I wanted to do that, but I still was gearing toward film. So I knew Ghost Rider, and I've seen the Nicolas Cage films and whatnot, and no offense to Sabrina, but I didn't think he'd been done justice, so cinematically, you know. And so when Mark let it go, he told me first, and kept it secret for a long time, and then started to spitball and get things going. So it was a dream character, especially coming off of Hive, who we did, and the shame with Hive is we did this great thing, but then it just ended up being like a conversation sequence. So, we're very proud of him, but it was nice when we got Ghost Rider, we knew, okay, we're going to get something that's going to be moving around, it's fire, it's a skull, it's like Mark was talking about, it's about making this thing feel expressive and alive, through very limited visual resources, so things like the exhaust ports and actually just doing subtle tweaking of the eye orbits, whether it was in CG or sometimes we would even do it in 2D during the comp process if Mark wanted to take it a little bit further or whatnot. And then the other thing we added was, we vacillated on this, but we added the pupils, which were an important part of it, we felt too, just to give him another little kiss of life. But he has been hard, and he's one of the reasons why the episodes pretty much go to deadline. And sorry again, Sabrina, sometimes past deadline.
But it looks great, though. So.
But we don't ever delay the show, thankfully. So.
No, I love that. What you guys, what they had about with the coals.
Yeah.
Well, the eyes go red whenever I'm pissed off. The eyes go red, and it's just cool to think that everything is igniting from inside, like from the eyes, basically. It's like those coals are burning the eyeballs away, which is like when he was telling me about it, he's oh man, the effects would be so cool. Your eyeball melts off, and it's great. Yeah. So you're telling me my grandmother won't be watching this episode. But no, I mean, you guys did a great job with that, because I just like that idea that the coals start to burn, and then the eyeballs burn away, and then it's just like, you know, all the flesh, everything, all the matter is being burned away from the inside. Which is cool, because you can, in the sound design, you can still hear my breaths, like you can tape my breathing and the growling, and then all that melts away once the flames slowly engulf the whole.
Sometimes when we're reviewing at Fuse, you know, we're analyzing the performance and what the scene is going on, you know, what's going on in the scene, and, you know, I'm always concerned about what's the emotional context of what's happening, and, you know, so I'm always trying to, if Gabe does a little bit of jaw open, sometimes the skull needs to go a little further, but not too much, so it's always a fine balancing act, and it's always finding that sort of right aesthetic, if you will. But when I found out about this character, we were finishing season 3, and the season finale episode had the tag, and so I'm reading the script, and it was like a storage wars type of scenario, right, where people have storage lockers, and a couple, you know, when this locker bid, they pay $3,000, and I'm reading this, you know, and I don't know anything that's, you know, whatever, and I'm just reading the scene. And I said, okay, and they're talking, well, I hope there's something in here worth $3,000, otherwise we just blew our cash, you know? And so they open it up, they break the chain, you know, the lock, they open it up, and right away they see a car under a hood, a muscle car. And they go, and they see some leather jacket. And I start thinking, huh. And so then all of a sudden there's like a motorcycle in there too, and I'm going, oh, fuck. No, it can't be. And so then, and the whole thing was laid out as being, you know, Ghost Rider. And so then I was so excited. And so I go to Jed. And Jed's always a poker face. And I'm like, it's Ghost Rider, right? He's like, I don't know. And so I'm like, damn. And so then I found out it was Ghost Rider, and then Ghost Rider was not going to happen on the season. And I said to Jeff Lowe one day, I said, God, I'm so bummed, I can't get over it. Why are we doing Ghost Rider? What? He says, the conversation's not over, Kolpack. And I said, okay, great. And then everyone knew but me at the end, and no one was allowed to tell me that we got Ghost Rider. Jed wanted to tell me, so on the 405, chugging along, 5 miles an hour. This was in May of last year. And so
no one was still allowed to say Ghost Rider until like my second day of work.
Yeah, exactly. It was always code name Matchstick.
The funny story behind that is Jed does have a poker face, and even I knew about it before Kolpack did. And I wasn't allowed to tell him. Jed said, we can't tell him until we deliver the last visual effect on the season finale of season 3. And so after that, on his way home, Jed called him, and he told him on the 405.
Yeah. On the 405. So I was like heading home, we were done, we were wrapped out, all good. And he calls me, and I'm like, you know, of course I'm through the roof.
Flames.
And then, yeah, all over my car. Yeah, and then of course it was, I got home and I started researching everything on the character. I went really from season 3 to season 4, between my ride from the studio home, you know, and then I was working on it, and then, you know, during the summer, I take these walks in the morning, and I'm just looking at cars. And all I'm doing is I'm studying the light on the cars. I'm studying the light in the wheel wells. Is it illuminated during the daytime? Is it still dark and underexposed? You know, and then I started thinking about how we would light the Hell Charger and the LEDs. And then by the time we got into production, I'm talking to the electrics, I'm talking to Gary D'Amico special effects, and they're looking at me like, oh, you know, and I said, okay, so here's what I want to do. I want LEDs in the wheel wells. I want it underneath, you know, the undercarriage. I want it inside the engine compartment, because we're going to light it there. I want it inside the intake, behind the butterflies of the blower, you know, and on top of that, I needed remote control, and they need to be on different.
Well, it's just like we figured things out,
so they can all happen independently.
Yeah, pretty much. And even as we were going, I mean, the second episode would come by. Oh, we need this to help us do that.
I need more light.
Oh, now I need just give me like a little ball, dude, of LED LEDs.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me, I don't know, it doesn't matter, just a ball of blinking LED lights. And then we're like, oh, and then they're like, okay, Shawn and Richard, they make him the ball, and then we realize, and we use it all the time. Sometimes, like, if I burn up,
Yeah.
someone's standing next to me and they need to have the light on them. You know, I'm always a team player, I love it. So like, just give me the ball, dude. Give me the ball. And I hold the ball, and I'm like Hollywood in this ball, lighting this dude that I'm doing a scene with. But in the end, it's all for the best.
First time we met,
all the way down the line, when I had Sabrina, Briana, everybody, Tom and Dan, at the end, it was just like, dude, thank you so much. I mean, because
was in wardrobe. He came in for a fitting for his jacket, and so we put this baklava, whatever you call it, the dragster hood, and because I wanted to put LEDs all over it so we'd have interactive light, and that ball that Gabe was talking about is when he transitions initially. It's his face, so he's not wearing the hood. The hood is only for when he's the skull. So we have to get some interactive lights so it all blends with the, the CG fire light, lights up his jacket because that's what makes it look real, is making that blend.
That was great, that first fitting, because they put me in that shroud and has a skeleton face on it. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, dang, this is gonna be so effing cool, man. Look how tough I look. Oh, yeah. And then they're like stitching on these Velcro things so they can put the lights on. And it still had the skull face, but then Kolpack's like, I need more, I want to be able to do stuff with your face, we're going to cut that out. They cut it out, so now it's just this big hole. I look like a Teletubby. With the lights all the way around. And so yeah, on the day I wasn't as cool as I may have wanted to be. But because of what these guys have done, I mean the character, it's just like, it's going to live forever. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, after the first shoot, Kevin and John Deck are like, we need more face. I think it would help us with, tracking and all that. Because we have tracking markers on the hood, but we also, I dot them up too, so the computer can track his face in a 3D space. So.
Okay, we are totally out of time. I'm getting the hands for the back of the room there. We got to make room for the next panel. I could sit here for about another 2 hours and talk Ghost Rider with you guys, but we are out of time. Sorry. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.